So what we have here is a 2012 BMW 335i. The customer's complaint is malfunction warnings on dash. Vehicle will not start. Vehicle failed after a car wash. I don't have any other information as to whether it started after the car wash, it drove and then stalled, whether it died in the car wash. I don't have any of that information right now. I came out to the vehicle and I noticed the key fob, the keyless entry, did not work. I had to use the blade key in the door lock to get into it, thinking that maybe the vehicle battery was dead, but that's not the case. Once I get in, the vehicle would crank and just not start. You can see now it's just constant cranking, no start. I do not see any warnings on the dash as it's cranking other than the check engine light on, but that is going to stay on anyway when you're cranking. So I'm going to do a full vehicle pre-scan and see what we come up with. There. If I can find the diagnostic connector here. Hang on one sec. There, we got it plugged in. So let me get the key on here. We're going to do a full vehicle scan of this and see what we can come up with. Okay. Just reading the VIN now. Okay, let's do a full system pre-scan here. Let's see what's happening with this. Engine codes. CAS got 3. Let's see what it is. It doesn't start. I'm outside here. I'm gonna have to get it pushed in, I would imagine. I just want to get a quick idea of what's going on with it here. So what do we got here? Lot of engine codes. Internal fault, relay injectors, ignition relay and injector supply voltage, fuel ignition short to ground, charge air temperature sensor. Okay, I'm going to have a look at these codes. I'm going to get it pushed in and then we'll get back and let's see what our plan of attack is going to be on this. Alright, I got it pushed in the shop and I'm just looking more at the codes that I have here, engine codes. The one that I'm paying real attention to is I've got crankshaft sensor signal missing. It's not going to start with no crank signal, so I'm just going to focus on that one right now. So first thing I'm going to do is just crank this engine and just see if I have... Okay, so my RPM gauge does move, so there is some sort of crank signal there. I can also check it on the scanner. When I crank the engine, watching it on the scanner, I've got engine speed. I do have RPM reading for engine speed while cranking. So I think, looking at what codes I have, that is the one that's really going to cause a no start. I do have some Valvetronic code, ignition relay and injectors. I do have to look at that, but I think at this point what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear these codes out, see what comes back on cranking, and then go from there. After clearing all the codes, the ones I highlighted here came back. So I've got the Valvetronic current implausible, ignition relay, injector supply voltage, short circuit, they're all circuit codes, like I'm missing voltage to them. I haven't looked up any of the code descriptions or anything yet, or any diagnosis on them, but I think what I'm going to do first is just have a look at the Valvetronic connector out under the hood, and make sure that's connected, make sure I don't see any problems, because I've got this ignition relay, injector supply. I'm going to take the cover off and just make sure everything, just a visual inspection before I do anything under the hood. So once the cover's off, I just had a look here at the connector. There's no problem in there, like visually, but I did smell some electrical burning, and on the top of the number 5 ignition coil there was a little bit of a burn mark. When I removed the coil, I found this. The coil is just burnt. There's some sort of, I don't know, it's the coil's no good. The coil's burnt up. I do have some damage in here to the connector as well. I'm going to see if this starts with that coil disconnected. Maybe that coil is shorted, causing all the issue. Okay, let's go see here. If I just look, I've got the coil right out of it, so no, it looks, oh wait, no, it's trying to start now, and it is running. It's obviously misfiring. I'm missing that coil altogether, but the vehicle is running, although rough. I think I'm going to get a coil, put that coil in, maybe fix the connector if need be, and I'm going to see how it runs after that to make sure I don't have any other issues maybe causing this. I like to keep used stuff around here just for testing. This is quite the mess, but I know in here somewhere I'm going to have I'm going to have a coil to try. That's the one. I'm gonna give this a try and hopefully all is good. When the engine starts up, it does set the missing crank signal again, as well as these other codes. So even with the shorted coil replaced, although it runs, I focused on that crank signal again and reading service information. Without a crank signal, engine will run. It'll run in fail-safe mode and with a substituted value. So that's why on the scanner I was getting an RPM value, even though the crank sensor is not working. So I got a little bit more information on this vehicle. Apparently it's been stored, not running, for 6 months. Customer started it up. He went to wash the car. As he was on his way to the car wash, it started running rough. It got worse when he left the car wash. He took it into another shop. They had scanned it, apparently just scanned it, didn't know what to do any further, but after that the car wouldn't start and he had it towed here. So what I decided to do is just check, unplug my crank sensor. So I did, and I've got nothing at the crank sensor. There should be 5 volts at one wire, ground at another, and a signal wire. I've got no ground, no 5 volts, nothing. That runs directly to the engine control module, all of those wires. So what I want to do now is test the harness and the wiring from the crankshaft position sensor to the DME engine control module, and make sure that the wiring is okay there. Make sure there's nothing, maybe something chewed. The car was stored for a while, maybe rodents have chewed through something, but we'll have a look and see what we come up with. So we have to find out what wires, what pins, and what connector we're looking at, or looking for, on the engine control module. Service information, we see that On the engine control module, we've got pin 37, pin 6, and pin 36 run to the crankshaft position sensor, and that is connector A211-2B. A211-2B is the middle of these three connectors. So you see A211-1B, A211-2B, that's the center connector. This is what the connector looks like, and it's numbered there. So let's get out under the hood, unplug that connector, find those pins, and test that, test the circuit. The center connector here on the engine control module, just underneath the intake, it wasn't seated all the way. You actually have to disconnect the connector to the rear of it to be able to unlock the latch and suck that down in. So somebody has had this off, the middle one there, and has not installed it properly. Once I seated that middle connector, which is connector A211-2B, that's the one that we were looking for. I seated that properly, got back in the vehicle. Vehicle ran nice and smooth, cleared all the codes. That was the issue. I'm quite sure of that. One of the engine control module connectors wasn't seated all the way. The clip was in, it looked fine, but as I went to take it out, it was just sitting on top. I would suspect that whatever shop they were at didn't only scan the vehicle. They got into it, started looking likely, and just didn't seat that connector properly. So I imagine the original problem was shorted coil. That was his rough running. Took it into the shop, and I think they just didn't seat that engine control module connector back properly. That's why it was towed from there to here. But problem solved. I've cleared the codes out. They haven't come back. I'm going to take it for a drive. I suspect everything's going to be fine. I'm going to replace that coil with a brand new one just because I'm not leaving a used coil in there. But we got to the bottom of this one, and another one done.